Hey guys, it's Chris, the Absolute DM. If you guys watched the first video that I have on this channel, the Welcome to Chris the Absolute DM video, which is sort of an introduction to the channel and a preview of things to come, then you would know that one thing I want to do on this channel is to run a campaign called Elder Vale, and have you guys in chat during a live stream help me build this adventure for my players, and then I would run the campaign for them and then upload campaign diary entries so that I can explain to you guys what happens in each session, sort of go over how the players are doing, how they're enjoying things, and what they come across that you guys helped me make. Well, the Elder Vale campaign has begun. I just did the first session for my players a couple days ago on Saturday. So session 1 is in the books. The campaign has begun. But I don't want to do a first entry for the campaign diaries yet, because first I would like to upload an introduction to the campaign, sort of an explanation of the setting, the lore, the story so far, and the party information, the player characters, their backstories, their personalities, and all that. That way, y'all are on the same page as me in terms of knowing the player characters, the world, the direction, and the setting, and so basically the stage is set for you to enjoy the campaign entries. And that video should be coming out this weekend, the Elder Vale introduction, so look forward to that. But until then, I did want to come out with this video just to sort of tide you over a little bit, give you something to chew on, something to get you anticipating the campaign diaries. So I figured, why not do a Elder Vale campaign diary entry 0, because I did do a session 0 before the campaign begun, so I figured I would go over that, as well as the real world history of this campaign. How did this D&D campaign come to be? How did I start it? Why did I choose to do it? And just tell you a little bit about the real world players that this campaign is starring. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. This is Elder Vale campaign diary entry 0. Enjoy. Before we begin, please hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and make sure that bell notification is rung. You want to sign up for all notifications. It really helps your boy out and makes sure that you don't miss any uploads or live streams coming up in the days to come. So how did the Elder Vale campaign begin? It actually began about 1.5 years ago in either June or July of 2020. My wife's family was planning a summer vacation, and I was of course invited as usual. And I don't usually like to vacation. I don't really love traveling. I like staying at home. I like being in my own safe space, that's just who I am. But this time around, I actually was interested in going. I was feeling a little adventurous. I felt like getting out of the house, so I agreed to go with them on their weekend vacation. We rented an Airbnb, went to the beach, did a few other fun things, and I actually packed my D&D supplies, my DM screen, my roll-up vinyl mat, my markers, my player's handbook, and my laptop. On the off chance that they wanted to try D&D, I wanted to be prepared because there was some mentionings of maybe playing Dungeons and Dragons on the trip. Sure enough, my wife asked them, and they said, yeah, they were totally interested in trying D&D out. They knew that I was into Dungeons and Dragons ever since they met me. I actually owe a huge part of my relationship to Dungeons and Dragons. When my wife and I first started getting to know each other back in college, I actually invited her to play a D&D campaign, and she loved it, and that's how we bonded a lot. And I actually proposed to her through a D&D session. I'll tell that story someday on the channel, but needless to say, my family knew that I was a big D&D nerd. And they wanted to see what it was all about. They wanted to see what was so cool about D&D that both me and my wife loved it so much, and our lives practically revolve around it. So they agreed, yeah, let's give it a shot. And so one evening on the vacation, after we did all the stuff during the day, after we ate dinner, we sat down at the table in our Airbnb and started knocking out some characters, and I basically planned a little one-shot adventure over the course of traveling to and from the different locations on our trip, just on my phone on a Google Doc. I was just making up a quick little adventure to play. We rolled up stats, we picked just basic race and class combinations. My wife picked a human paladin, my wife's sister picked a dragonborn druid, her husband picked a halfling monk, and then my wife's mom, my mother-in-law, picked a wood elf ranger. We kind of glazed over the background and backstory stuff. We just kind of made very quick work of each character's ideals, bonds, flaws, goals, because we just wanted to get in the game, jump in, and have a quick little adventure. The purpose of this adventure was to sort of demonstrate to my family members what D&D was all about in a short, concise, densely packed, quick little adventure. I call it a one-shot, but I think it was technically 2 sessions. I think we played 2 nights in a row. I'm not sure about that. I can't really remember. But the player characters had joined up with the Adventurers Guild. They traveled to a city called Vale, which was experiencing mysterious happenings. They had to investigate what was going on. They found out that it was probably goblins. They went into the woods, encountered some goblins, met up with a really weird traveling gnome caravan that sold some magic items. They went into a very short dungeon, had a boss fight, and that was it. And they really enjoyed it. We got through it, like I said, in a few hours. It was a fun experience for them. They got a taste of everything D&D had to offer, and they insisted that they would be open to continuing the adventure later on after the vacation was done over Discord and Roll20 and whatnot. Now, I was busy at the time with a lot of other campaigns and some other stuff going on. I was also not in the best place mentally, so I wasn't really ready to start a full campaign. So I kind of just let that be and say that was the one shot. If we pick it up later, then great. If not, no big deal. Fast forward to present day. I was getting ready to start my D&D channel here on YouTube, and I was thinking to myself of what kind of content I would like to come up with. And one idea was to run a campaign, do campaign diaries, and have the live stream campaign building with chat. And when I thought to myself what kind of campaign would be best to have chat help me build, I kept thinking of that one-shot that I did on vacation for my in-laws. I wanted to continue that campaign, and I wanted to make it something that was really exciting for new players. Just a very sort of densely packed, small world where they can run around and do quests and just have fun, nothing super-duper serious. And I feel like that was the perfect campaign to have chat help me build, because it's not something we need to take too seriously. We can have fun with it. We can come up with some wacky ideas and just throw as many different fun, light concepts at the players that we possibly could. And so this campaign seemed like the perfect sandbox for me to try out this format of having chat help me build a campaign. Because I was anxious about that idea. Having viewers help me build a campaign in real time sounds a bit daunting to me. But I think that this is the perfect campaign to do that in. We can make it simple, straightforward, sandbox adventure, again, where the players are free to kind of just do whatever they want. For lore reasons, they are not allowed to leave the game area, which is something that they just discovered at the end of the first session. Without going into details, basically, they were cursed with something that prohibits them from leaving the boundaries of the game world, which is called the Elder Vale. That's the name of the area that they're exploring. So yeah, I came up with some basic lore. I came up with the main villain. I came up with the setup to how they would get to the Vale, and that's where they are now. The end of the first session ended with them entering the Vale and seeing the big bad evil guy for the first time, and so now here they are. They don't know anything about the Elder Vale or what is in it, which is where you guys come in. We're gonna have our campaign building streams soon, so that as soon as the second session starts, they're gonna start encountering stuff that you and I come up with together, which will be super exciting. But like I said, leading up to the first session, we did have a session 0. For those of you who don't know what a session 0 is, I'm not gonna get too deep into explaining it right now. I actually wanna save that for a future video where I can actually go into what a session 0 is, how to run it, why it's important, and really do a deep dive into that concept. That's going to be a later video on my DM tips series that I plan on coming out with. But for now, I'll just say that the session 0 is basically a time for you to communicate with your players, hash out character backstories, explain your expectations for them, ask them for their expectations of you, explain the style of the campaign, any relevant setting or lore information that they need to know before starting the campaign proper. From not having a character and not knowing anything about the campaign to starting the campaign in session 1. Anything between that can be your session 0. And it varies from one DM to the next what they do in a session 0 or whether they have one at all. I think it's a good idea to have a session 0 for any campaign. But exactly what that entails is kind of up to you, the DM. But like I said, in the future, I'll do a tip video where I explain all the different elements of a possible session 0. But for me, what it meant for this campaign was basically diving into the player character backstories, honing in on each character's motivations and goals, their inciting incident that led them to this adventure in the first place, because when we had our one-shot back on vacation, we glazed over a lot of that stuff because it was supposed to be a quick one-shot adventure. But now that we're starting a real campaign, I asked each player sort of to explain their character's motives, their backstory. again, the inciting incident. Why did they start this adventure in the first place? What are they after? And we had a nice roundtable discussion where I went from one player to the next and talked this stuff out. I started with my wife and used her as an example because she knows how to play D&D. She's been through the rigmarole a few times herself. She's playing a human paladin. I basically asked her to explain why her paladin took the Oath of Devotion, why she is now roaming the countryside looking for adventure, and that was pretty simple. Paladins are usually pretty easy to come up with. Then I moved on to my wife's sister, my sister-in-law, who is playing the Dragonborn Druid. I could sense that of the 3 new players in this campaign, that she was the most prepared in terms of having an idea for her character and having a vision for what she wanted out of the adventure. So I decided to go with her next, and she did not disappoint. She very quickly came up with sort of her character's upbringing. She had a inciting incident in mind that was sort of a revenge idea that was sort of copy-pasted from Princess Bride. My name is Morgaine, you killed my mentor, prepare to die. So that was fun. Taking inspiration from pop culture, from movies and games, is a great way to get inspiration for your character. So I'm really glad that she did that. We took that revenge concept, we put our own twist on it to make it a little bit more creative, a little more personalized. And then, she explained how her character then went on her journey, began living amongst humans, was mistreated somewhat, did some Robin Hood-esque actions, and eventually was kicked out of the human settlement, out into the open world where she took on her adventure, and that's where she is now. Then I moved on to my wife's sister's husband. Is that my brother-in-law? I don't know what the term is, but we moved on to his character next. And he had the most interesting backstory by far of those 3. He's playing a halfling monk. And I'm not going to get into everything that his backstory has. I'll save that for the introduction, but you'll see what I mean when I say that his backstory is definitely the most out there. He had a few ideas and backstory elements that didn't quite fit the setting, didn't quite mesh with the medieval fantasy genre. So your job as DM, when a character has those kinds of ideas, is to take those and not say no, but to say, let's recontextualize that a little bit. Let's make little tweaks here and there so that it fits the campaign better. So that's what we did. I said, maybe not that, but how about this? It's the same thing, just kind of tweaked and reformatted to better fit what I have in mind for this campaign and to not be too outlandish. And he was cool with that. He was very receptive to me basically taking his ideas and reworking them a little bit to better fit what this setting is and what the genre is all about. And so we got that squared away, and he's good to go. So next I moved on to my mother-in-law, who is playing the Wood Elf Ranger. Out of the 3 new D&D players in this campaign, I decided to go with my mother-in-law last for this process because she struck me as the most reserved and the most shy in terms of outwardly being creative and verbally role-playing her character. And I think that did help. I think it helped that she saw the other players go first so that she had an idea of what kinds of things she should come up with for her character. And she did have a couple ideas, but again, it was my job as the DM to work her through that process. When you have a player who doesn't have a whole lot of ideas for their character, or maybe doesn't really know D&D well enough to know what should go in their backstory, it's our job as a DM to kind of fish a little bit. Helping these players come up with their backstory is like casting a fishing line. You throw that hook out there, you see what gets the bite, and when they latch onto an idea, you reel it in slowly and you draw some of that creativity out of them. And that's kind of what I did. Back when we made her character during the one-shot on vacation, she chose independence as her character ideal. She has the noble background. She is of the noble house of the Wood Elf clan. And she actually brought that up. She had independence written on her digital character sheet, and she latched onto that as the sort of jumping point for her character backstory. And this is one reason why the idea of backgrounds in D&D 5th edition is so great, because it's so full of these little ideas, these vague concepts, like the ideals, bonds, and flaws, that are great jump-off points for coming up with your character backstory. These are concepts that you don't need to adhere to as law, but they're more just to get the juices flowing, get the ball rolling on a player's creativity and help them come up with a backstory that is truly their own. So she brought up the concept of independence, and I said, okay, well, elves typically claim their adult name at the age of about 100. So what if your character has to prove herself to earn her adult name? How about she has to go on this grand trial in order to become an independent adult? and maybe that's what your character is on this adventure for. And she enjoyed that idea. She liked the idea of her character sort of wanting to get away from her family, prove that she can do things on her own as an adventurer. And so that's kind of the core concept of our Wood Elf Ranger. And we talked through another couple of ideas, but we'll save that for the campaign introduction. For now, point is, we got all 4 characters sorted out in terms of their backstories. After session 0 was over, I actually had a few more questions that I sent them in direct messages. And then we did have to have sort of a session 0.1 before the first session started, because we had to level up to level 3 and pick a few more class features, subclass, spells, things like that. So that happened. And once that was all sorted out, once we had the backstories figured out, all of the subclass and proficiencies and spells, yada, 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 we were ready to start playing. We began the first session. I think it was a huge success. It seemed like the players really enjoyed it, and you guys will get to hear about that in Campaign Diary Entry 1 coming soon. So that's it. That is the Elder Vale Campaign Diary Entry 0. We talked about how the campaign started as a one-shot, how it went a year and a half with inactivity, how I revitalized it, and my plans for the future, and also how I handled Session 0 for this campaign. I'm hoping to have a full campaign introduction coming out this weekend. It'll be a video that dives into the setting, the lore, and each player character's backstory in full. We're gonna have some cool character art, so you'll actually get to see the characters. You'll hear all about them and how their quest began, an in-depth explanation of the one-shot back then, and the sort of setup for the adventure to come. So now that session 1 is out of the way, it is time to build this campaign with you guys. I'm gonna say Saturday, the 12th of February at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That is going to be the first campaign building live stream. It's going to be here on this channel. Again, that is February 12th. It's a Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We are going to get together right here on this very channel, so make sure you hit that bell and stay tuned. And we're going to start with building the starting town that the party is in right now. We're going to come up with key locations, key NPCs, maybe a couple of quest hooks, and basically decide where the campaign is going to go from here. And yeah, that's going to be the first campaign building stream. I've never done anything like this before, so please bear with me, guys, and stay tuned for updates. I might change the time, and I really don't know what I'm doing. So again, please be patient with me. Once we start this campaign building stream, it might not go as well as intended, but you and I are going to learn together. We're going to figure it out and see if we can get some really cool stuff planned for this party. That's all, guys. Again, make sure you please like this video, stay subscribed, hit the bell notification icon. I love y'all. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for future content. This is Chris, the Absolute DM, over and out for now. Thanks again. Bye-bye.